In wrestling, some guys become stars. A few become legends. But only one man was ever a literal god. This guy wasn't just a champion. He was the leader of a giant fan base, and the guy an entire empire was built on. For 2,803 straight days, that's almost 8 years, he was the undisputed, unbeatable WWWF World Heavyweight Champion. His name was Bruno Sammartino. And then, in one night, it was all gone. In a sold-out Madison Square Garden, a god was literally defeated. An entire empire was about to collapse. Their biggest star, their biggest moneymaker, just lost. The entire company was facing total failure. It was a complete nightmare. So the owners turned to one guy. They gave him an insane, impossible task. You have to replace a god and save everything. This is the story of the man who had to replace God. To understand why this was a complete disaster, you have to know who Bruno Sammartino was. This guy wasn't just a wrestler, he was the entire company. For so many fans, he was a real-life superhero. He was an immigrant who survived a war, came to America, and became the strongest man in the world. His championship reign was the only thing keeping the company alive. He sold out the legendary Madison Square Garden month after month after month. Nobody was doing that back then. For 2,803 days, he just didn't lose. He was invincible, a superhero that nobody could beat. Until January 18th, 1971. His opponent was this bad guy, the Russian bear Ivan Koloff. 20,000 fans were packed into the arena expecting Bruno to win, just like he always did. But then the unthinkable happened. Koloff jumped from the top rope and crashed down on Bruno. 1, 2, 3. Silence. The entire arena, which was usually deafening, went completely quiet. Bruno himself said he thought he'd gone deaf. Grown men who had watched him for 8 years were openly crying in the crowd. People said it felt like a funeral. It was like watching Superman die. The ref was so scared the fans would riot that he didn't even give the new champion the belt. The whole company was built on one man, and now he was broken. The owner was watching his entire business go up in flames, and he needed a savior, like right now. So, this new champion, Ivan Koloff, he was never the real plan. He was just a temporary champion. See, back then, you never had two good guys fight for the title. It would just confuse the fans. So they needed a bad guy to hold the belt just long enough to give it to the next hero. Koloff was just a placeholder for exactly 21 days. During those 3 weeks, the company's entire future was on the line. The only question was, who on earth can follow a living god? This wasn't just about finding a new wrestler. They needed a new superstar to stop the company from going completely bankrupt. And then they found him. A guy who was the total opposite of Bruno. His name was Pedro Morales. From Puerto Rico, Pedro wasn't a giant powerhouse like Bruno. This dude was pure fire and crazy skilled in the ring. He was fast, he was exciting, and most importantly, he had his own massive fan base. New York's huge Puerto Rican and Latino audience loved this guy. He was their hero. And he was already a champion selling out arenas by himself. The owner saw the future. Pedro could bring in a whole new audience. He wasn't chosen to be the next Bruno. He was chosen to be the first Pedro Morales. The choice was made. The weight of the entire company was about to be dropped on his shoulders. He was about to try to do the impossible. February 8th, 1971, Madison Square Garden. Just 21 days after Bruno's shocking loss, the fans came back, hoping for a miracle. And when Pedro Morales beat Ivan Koloff for the title, the arena did not go silent. It exploded! The sound was insane. And here's the crazy part. They were cheering for Pedro, not for Bruno. In that one moment, it was official. The fans had a new hero. Pedro Morales was the first Latino to ever hold the company's biggest prize. And what happened next was a mind-blowing 1,027-day reign as champion. For nearly 3 years, Pedro proved the company could survive without Bruno. Not just survive, it could be even bigger. He sold out Madison Square Garden between 21 and 30 times, proving he was a massive star. He took on every bad guy you can imagine. He got into insane, bloody matches with total monsters. Every win proved that the company wasn't a one-man show anymore. Every sold-out arena proved he was the man. He didn't just save the company, he changed what a champion could be. He took the impossible job of replacing a god, and he completely crushed it. But to prove he was truly a legend, he had to face the god himself. By 1972, Bruno was back, and everyone wanted to see the ultimate dream match, the god who built the company versus the man who saved it. On September 30th, 1972, at a giant stadium, the impossible happened. Hero versus hero. Pedro Morales versus Bruno Sammartino. The setup was genius. Over 22,000 fans showed up to watch history, and for an unbelievable 75 minutes, the two heroes went to war. It was pure power versus pure fire. The crowd was electric, totally split between their two favorite wrestlers. They fought for so long that they hit the stadium's 11 p.m. curfew and the match had to be stopped. It was a draw. They fought for over an hour and neither one could beat the other. Afterward, they hugged in the ring, a massive sign of respect. Bruno himself said Pedro was what made that match so legendary. This proved it. Pedro wasn't just a replacement. He was on Bruno's level. He had faced a god and fought him to a standstill. His job was done. He had carried the company for 1,027 days and proved that no one man was bigger than the whole empire. For most people, saving the company would be the highlight of their career. But Pedro Morales was just getting started. He came back in 1980 for another run, and this is where he made even more history. On December 8th, 1980, he won the Intercontinental Championship, and with that victory, he did something nobody had ever done. He became the company's first ever Triple Crown champion. No one would do that again for almost 12 years. And Pedro made that Intercontinental title feel just as important as the world title. His 2 reigns as champion lasted a combined 619 days, a record that wasn't broken for over 40 years. His second reign by itself was a crazy 425 days long. During this time, he had one of the most brutal rivalries ever against the magnificent Don Muraco. Their matches were just insane, bloody brawls that had fans losing their minds. Even in his 40s, Pedro's matches were must-see. But here's the most insane part. Despite this unbelievable career, saving the company, being the first Triple Crown winner, setting a 40-year record, Pedro's legacy is almost forgotten. When he was put in the Hall of Fame, he wasn't even there. His 40-year record was barely mentioned until it was finally broken in 2024. He was the bridge between 2 huge eras, the man who stopped the company from going bankrupt, and yet he gets completely overlooked. Pedro Morales wasn't a guy who gave crazy speeches. He just said, "I'm ready for any kind of action." And for 30 years, he proved it over and over again. He was ready for any opponent. He was ready for Bruno Sammartino. He was ready for the insane, crushing weight of replacing a literal god and putting an entire company on his back. His real legacy isn't just the titles he won, even though he won all of them. It's not just the records he set, even though they lasted for decades. His true legacy is that he saved a company from total ruin, that he broke down walls as the first Latino world champion, and that he opened the door for thousands of wrestlers who came after him. He was the man who had to replace a god, and by doing it, he became a legend himself. So what do you guys think? Is Pedro Morales the most underrated champion of all time? Let us know in the comments right now. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe for more insane deep dives into wrestling history. Thanks for watching.